Well, hello. Welcome to Mondays with Mover. I'm Mover, and I've got special guests with me today. First time using StreamYard, so bear with me. This is a new setup that we may not have tried before tonight. But today is a special day. It is not just any other 3-day weekend. It is Memorial Day. And we're going to pay tribute to those that we have lost serving their country, friends that we have known. We'll tell the stories of those that have gone before, and hopefully raise some money for Folds of Honor. This is a charity stream, so if you use Super Chat, 100% of the proceeds will go to Folds of Honor. It is a veteran charity that I highly support. They give educational scholarships to those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. So without further ado, let's see if I can't add some of our guests. So here we go. Here's Casmo. Welcome,
Hello.
Casmo. Hello.
What's going on?
And in no particular order, here's Deuce. Got to unmute. He's muted. He's staring as intensely as possible.
Intense.
He is very intense today. All right. And then here's Gonky. Gonky!
Hey.
Also muted. Oh, there he is.
Hey.
Cool. Let's see. We got all kind of setups here. Look at that. All right. So to start out, so everybody, we hear everybody. Everybody's happy. That's good. Yep. Cool. Well, to start out, what I thought we would do is I will kick this off telling the story of David Jinx Mitchell, probably one of the first losses in my career. And I've talked about this on the channel before, but you know the story. This is the day we tell this story. This is the day we remember those that have paid the ultimate price. And Jinx was in my B course, the F-16 basic course. We were in the dogfighting phase, high aspect BFM, basic fighter maneuvers. He and I had just gone to the simulators the day prior. We were practicing. He was nervous about flying with the squadron commander the next day, and unfortunately, during that sortie, he on his third set, he had a G-induced loss of consciousness and did not make it. He hit the ground, and he left behind a pregnant wife, which was a huge, devastating loss. I mean, just a great guy. So on this Memorial Day, a toast to Jinx.
Jinx.
To Jinx. Casmo, since you are top of the stream, I would like to turn this over to you for the Army's side of things. I know you've been through a lot.
Sure. Yeah, I guess my good buddy Frank Bonicatti, I knew him since I graduated flight school. We showed up at the same unit together. He got there a couple months before me, and spent a lot of time together, multiple deployments. Just a good dude. A ton of funny stories. We called him No Cheese. He was Italian, but he refused to eat cheese, which we thought was interesting. So we just called him Frank No Cheese, among other crazy names we had for him. But instructor pilot, tons of hours. Just one of those dudes that, you know, you always hear people, oh, he was a good dude. This guy was legitimately a good dude. And I don't know if we'll tell funny stories here in a bit, but he unfortunately lost his life during a mid-air collision during training up at Fort Lewis on the 12th of December, 2011. He and three other aviators died that day, but their OH-58 Deltas collided in midair at night. So it was just terrible loss. But yeah, to Frank.
Deuce is having technical difficulties. He will be back as momentarily, but thanks, Casmo. It's just tough, man. It's tough, but that's what tonight will be. We'll go around, tell stories. We'll get to some funny stories and lighten it up here after this. But it's just a tribute to the fallen. Gonky, would you like to begin, sir, from your garage?
My dad's garage. Christmas lights. Yeah, probably the one that stands out in my mind is when I was IP in the Hornet. We had Beefcake, who was a Wizzo, and 11, who was a pilot. They were practicing for the demo, and they crashed it right there at the field. I mean, like literally doing their cert. 2 great guys, super hard workers. I mean, 30 years old, whatever, and both of them married, great families. And I just, it was just so sudden. And a training flight that's, it's one V0, right? One airplane going up there. I was on the demo team. I always kind of thought that those flights were a low threat, but that was April 6th, 2011. It's been 10. This year it's been 10 years ago. So, and that one I guess is a little bit unique to me because I was a Keiko, which if you've ever seen that movie Taking Chance with Kevin Bacon, I think, like, you go do the notification and you handle the affairs. So I mean, I had to do that for 11. So, I got to see the whole process of what happens when unfortunately there's an accident and one of our guys loses or gals loses their life. So toast to 11 and beefcake.
11 and beefcake.
Beefcake. Right after Jenks, unfortunately, I lost a mentor. Same year, 2008 was just a rough year, but Blair Bama Faulkner, he was I think he was a navigator before he became an A-10 pilot in the reserves. Great guy, always smiling, always happy, just the best mentor you could have as a brand new lieutenant because, I was part of a reserve squadron. I get sent off to pilot training. I was calling him going, hey, this sucks. I hate IFF. Why are they treating me like this? And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it, dude. You'll get to your squadron. It's fine. And then not long after I was in the B course, I found out that he was on a student sortie and they had a malfunction. That was back, I don't know if Gonky, if you remember this, but when they had the aileron problem, we tap under the ailerons to make sure it's not rattling in there because they fail wrong direction. That's essentially what happened. And they ejected pretty much, it rolled. It just rolled. I think it was on a touch and go or something, and it just rolled, and they didn't make it. So Bama also left behind a wife and children. And for Bama, his children are actually a recipient of the Folds of Honor Scholarship. So that has been awesome. So to Bama.
Bama.
So I'm going to turn the floor. Oh, by the way, we should note, somebody brought this up to me earlier when I announced the stream, but Scooter Hamilton lost his life last week. Draken, F1 pilot. He was an F-16 guy. Obviously didn't lose his life in the service of his country directly. However, contract Red Air is absolutely serving the country, training, the tip of the spear. So he lost his life tragically last week, and I've got some friends that are very shaken right now for having lost that, and he leaves behind a family and stuff. So to Scooter.
Scooter.
All right, let's see if Deuce is back. Deuce has got worse internet than Gonky. That is the amazing. He's just got the permanent scowl. The permanent scowl. There he is.
Back.
Deuce,
This iPhone 7 is...
I'm not hearing.
Dude.
Side tones only, man. Side tones only.
Pop the kick.
Gonky's like, I found a wedge. Someone is finally worse.
This is great.
Yeah. So Casmo, Gonky, while Deuce gets this figured out, would either of you?
Permanent scowl. Come on, man.
Dude, all I see is you smiling now.
We've upgraded to a smile.
That's good.
Oh,
Try it
geez,
now.
You're, skip.
It's not us.
Yeah, bad.
No, yeah, this is not going to work. So we'll get back to you. Casmo or Gonky? Would either of you like the floor for this? We're laughing too much. This is serious. Seriously.
Gonky, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I spent quite a bit of time as an IP, and so you get to meet a lot of guys and gals going through. But So Jeff Cruz, blew him in the six. He was I say he's one of my students, but I mean, there was quite a few IPs that taught him, but Jeff and I would talk about dirt bikes because I like to ride and race motocross, and he's just a really cool, down-to-earth Marine, just real soft-spoken, and I mean, he ended up going to Top Gun, becoming a Blue Angel, and unfortunately he was killed in Tennessee in a crash, and it's so unfortunate. He had a wife and 2 kids.
Are we there
as well? So, cheers to or a toast to Jeff.
Sorry, I was texting Deuce. His connection is as bad as you would hope. But Deuce actually is back. I don't know. But as the ticker suggests, use the super chat to donate to Folds of Honor if you would like. You can also donate directly using the tag. There's been a lot of stories that Noonan has told that have directly impacted children of the fallen and stuff like that. Casmo, what do you have, man? We'll hand it off to you for a second.
Are we ready for a funny story, or are we still?
Yes, I think we've got the levity now. We've laughed enough at Deuce, and now he's just a black screen. That I think, I think for sure, man, we can.
Sure. Like I said, Frank was a good dude. He was also very intense. And so when we deployed into Iraq in 2006, it was his first deployment. It was my first deployment. And he had one of those, I don't know what you call them, those man dress things. And he would wear it, he'd put on his flight gear and he would put it on and it would just be wrapped around his neck. Right. And he would fly like it was a big scarf. And we're like, Frank, what are you wearing that for? He's like, well, if I get shot down and I go down, I can just drop it and then put the thing on and just blend in with all the people. And it's like, okay, well, what about your co-pilot, man? He's like, oh, well, he's my prisoner. So that was his evasion strategy. So.
Dude, that's some Spies Like Us stuff right there. Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doctor. Yeah. That's awesome. Deuce has now gone to his laptop. He is going to try to unscrew it. And also Wombat. I know I advertised Wombat. Everybody's been looking for Wombat. His book is on its way to becoming an Amazon bestseller. But he'll be here, maybe, possibly. He got called out to go fly a trip for the airline, which, Gonky, I know you're real excited about doing airline trips all the time. But
Negative.
Casmo, are you? Is that your next step? Is this the airline world?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I want to fly. I'm getting ready to go get all my fixed wing stuff knocked out here in a few months, and then we'll see who's hiring and what's available. So yeah.
Gonky, as the person that does notifications, the Keiko, what do you think? I mean, is the hardest part for those that have lost, initially in just dealing with it? Is it just the initial notification, or is it the realization that this is, we're actually, when we go out there, it's for real. It's not just, it's training and we'll come back every day.
Yeah, man, there's a whole lot of things that were hard, but I remember, so we went to the hospital where his fiance worked, and it was like me and the skipper and the Commodore, and like we were in our dress blues, and we walked in and said, "Hey, we need to speak to." Her name is Liz, and we need a room. And so they're like, "Okay," so they put us in this room, and the hardest part was sitting there thinking like, this poor girl's life is going to change forever when she walks through that door. I mean, there's no breaks, like this is gonna, you can't stop this life-changing news you're about to tell her. And I mean, it was, I say it was terrible, but somebody had to do it. And at least we were able at the time in 2011 to beat the cell phone
The
call,
news.
whatever social media existed back then. We were able to let her know firsthand. So that was the hardest part, is just waiting to actually drop the news, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And when Jinx's mishap happened, they locked us down. I was doing a Snacko run, and we were, Luke Air Force Base. The way it's set up is you've got the place for the retirees and the housing and stuff, and then you got a little bridge, and it goes to the main base. And we were across the bridge doing, getting popcorn, jalapenos, all that stuff. We were driving back, and the senior ranking officer of the class called us and said, "Where are you?" And we said, "Well, hey, we're coming back." And they said, "Turn off your phones, come straight to the squadron. Don't say anything. Don't talk to anybody." And it's like, we thought we were in trouble. That there was no any kind of, we thought, oh, somebody screwed up, went out drinking something last night or whatever, because it was a Friday. We thought, we did some stupid lieutenant stuff. And when we got back, they said, "Hey, give me your phone." Put all the phones in like this little basket or whatever, and they made us sit in the bar, and they locked us in. I mean, we were complete lockdown. And, we were getting, hearing rumors. Guys were coming back shaken because they had been airborne when it happened. It's this whole atmosphere where you're like, something is wrong, but you don't know what. And then you put two and two together. And that's why they lock you down, because you start counting. You go, okay, well, there's Gonky, there's Casmo. Shit, who's still out there? Who's that? And then you start coming up with, your mind starts to run. You're like, well, they didn't see the shoot, but he probably ejected. He's probably sitting on a rock somewhere waiting to get picked up. And then we start thinking about, when you're in survival and they tell you don't get picked up by the EMS helicopter because they'll charge you $10,000 because one guy had a $10,000. Yeah, they told us that in survival school. They're like, look, if you see the private EMS show up, wait for the sheriff, because they will have a $10,000 bill and TRICARE won't pay for it. It's stupid stuff like that you're trying to keep your mind occupied, and then finally, you have, I mean, it's just it shakes you. It shakes you to your core when the news finally comes out and stuff. And in this business, we talk a lot on the channel. I know, Casmo, you've got probably a lot of young viewers as well, but there's the harsh reality of this business that you're seconds away from a notification at any given time. I mean, anything can happen.
And it's to, I think, Gonky's point earlier, it's a lot of times it's those flights that you're like, oh, this is just a normal flight. Like, you've got training flights out at night, and you go to bed, and you wake up the next morning, and you get the phone call, and it's never when you expect it. And to talk about the, you were talking about locking down, deployed, that's harder and harder to do. Like when I was shot in 2006, nobody really had cell phones overseas. Like there wasn't really that capability. And so that was kind of easy to do. But like when I was back over there, 2011 and then back in 2018, how do you lock that down? Everyone's got a cell phone, and so it's really challenging to control news like that, and it's really tough. But you're right, it's important for the notification team, and I'm thankful I never had to do that. I went through the training for it, and I knew going through the training, I was like, I never want to do this, because I don't know that I'd be able to hold myself together. But yeah, it's a race against time to get that information to the right people, and it's rough. It's a tough job.
Well, Deuce has joined us, and we are going to go back to raising our glasses in toast. Deuce, are you with us now?
I'm now with you. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. My iPhone 7 has lost that love and feeling, so.
iPhone 7? You are Gonky. Gonky's got like an iPhone 3 or something. I've been trying to sell him my
the original.
but Deuce, so just introductions real quick. I don't know if I've said this. Everyone that's here has been on the channel, but in case you've forgotten, Gonky is Gonky. He needs no introduction. People go up to him in the airport and say, "Hey, you're the most famous person. You're more famous than Mover." Casmo has his own channel, which I will do a banner because I can do those now.
Wow.
Casmo, what is it? The Low Level Hell podcast?
Yep, the Low Level Hell podcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on there like a ticker.
Cool.
And
Look at
then
Nice
Deuce was one of the first awesome broskies that I interviewed. He's an F-16 fighter pilot, weapons school instructor pilot, and also coined the phrase, rule number 1, don't be a douche. So
Those are a simple fact.
yeah, I mean, that's
good rule.
whatever. So Deuce, you have the floor, my friend. Welcome back.
Thanks, Mover. I appreciate it. The first fighter pilot I'd like to toast this evening for remembrance was one of my friends from the F-16B course, which is Ice Houghton. Ice died during spin up for Afghanistan. It was nighttime, a little bit disorientation with high angle strafe at night, and ended up hitting the ground there. But was friends with both Ice and his wife Josie there during the F-16B course and Luke. So here's to Ice.
Nice.
Nice.
Ice. Also to Ice, you and I went shooting with him. He was a great guy. Awesome dude.
Yeah.
Fine American. Love guns. What else do you want?
I have no questions. One of the next great Americans to toast for the evening is going to be Dirk Ziegler. So I first met Dirk after the B course. I went to Spangdahlem Air Base in Germany, and Dirk was one of the quintessential guys who would literally give you the shirt off his back kind of thing. So we had just showed up to Germany, and of course got his car to use, like, free of charge, like just drive around Germany, like go for it as you guys are moving in. Flew a lot of my flight lead upgrade with him there in Germany, and he had actually left the squadron when he passed, but he was in the 422 at Nellis. He was getting ready to go to weapons school. It was one of his weapons school spin up rides, and he was a high G ride, and he had G-induced loss of consciousness and ended up unfortunately hitting the ground. This was before we had auto GCAS and before we had the ATAGS G suits. I was actually deployed when we got the news. It was right before I was actually stepping for a combat mission in Iraq, which was, of course, very difficult to hear. But here's to Dirk.
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 Geez, unfortunately, I could talk all night and take up all your time, but
you've got a few. But this is exactly why. Yeah, I continue. Please do.
Absolutely.
Or not.
Or not.
We got frozen. The potato.
Shaw.
Wait. You're back. Yeah. Okay.
So I just got to Shaw from Kunsan, and the 77th. The Gamblers were deployed, and unfortunately, one of the pilots, Man of Steel, had impacted the ground during a combat sortie there in Afghanistan. Who I didn't know personally, but by all accounts, of course, was great American. So here's to Man of Steel.
Steel.
While I was there at Shaw, I went to weapons school and came back to Shaw, and one of the individuals that I had met at Kunsan, I saw again there at Shaw, who was Pyro Du Bois, and he was on a combat mission from an undisclosed location there in 2014, and his wingman had an issue after takeoff, and then landed uneventfully, but unfortunately, Pyro had a bit of spatial disorientation and ended up impacting the ground there as well. So another great American, common theme, unfortunately, of course, for the evening, but here's to Pyro.
Pyro.
Moving forward, with everyone that we've lost. I know that you, Mover, have done, some of the videos on, hey, why does this happen? Some of the mishaps, and it's always, difficult to understand, especially if you're not a fighter pilot. But there's a very thin margin of safety. There is a margin of safety, but it's very thin, in the business that we do. So always keeping that in mind for those that we've lost as we reflect. So the shirt that I'm actually wearing, I don't think that you can see it, but it's Hero, Father, Husband, Warrior. This was for one of my good friends of mine, who I served with in Germany and in both Libya and Iraq, which was Chex Meyer, who of all things, he was actually just doing some training on base. He was actually running there, and unfortunately got struck by a vehicle there. But he left behind his wife and his 2 children. So here's to Chex.
To Chex.
Chex.
I met Chex at Homestead. He went through our Flug, or was it Flug or iPug? It might have been an iPug spin up.
iPug, yeah, that would have been his iPug there.
iPug spin up, yeah. Really sharp guy, really smart, awesome in the jet, great fighter pilot.
Yeah, he was a really great American. He actually got accepted for the weapons school class that I ended up going through, and he made a family decision ultimately to go on to the F-35, which he was able to have a really positive impact with there. Moving on to the next group of Americans was Bruiser Bryant and Klepto. I didn't know Klepto, but I knew Bruiser Bryant. He was one of my instructors in the Block 50 course, which was a top-off course after the B course there in Luke. Moving on to Spangdahlem for learning HCS and HARM and all things F-16. But Bruiser and Klepto, they were both advisors in Afghanistan, and I believe it was in Kabul, and it was an insider attack, so a green on blue kind of attack where Afghan just kind of opened up fire on them, which was unfortunate, and they actually ultimately passed. One of the things that I believe came out of that was they had their M9s on them, and I believe that they were able to get one shot off, if I'm not mistaken. However, the magazines that are downrange, like, they're always kept loaded, so the springs have lost that tension. So the firearms then malfunctioned, and then they weren't able to get subsequent shot off, and they ended up paying the ultimate price, unfortunately. So here's to both Bruiser and Klepto.
Bruiser and Klepto. Jeez.
Next American was in the Tigers with me at Shaw, Trip Grace. He's still serving his country, but he wasn't flying at the time. He was actually running, and he actually ended up having a heart condition, which while he was out running, he ultimately had a heart attack and passed. He's a great American, and had a family and everything else. So here's to Trip.
Trip.
So next American was one of my students there when I was a flight commander in the F-16 weapons school, the Tomahawks, was Guns Garin, who passed. Again, not flying, but he actually had a heart condition, and he actually got surgery for that to correct the condition. However, he actually ultimately got an infection from that, but he had a lasting impact there. He was a Air National Guard, South Carolina, from McIntyre. It's a phenomenal group of Americans. They're a great unit. I actually did my mission qualification training with them from when I was at Spangdahlem, but he of course left behind his family there. So here's to Guns Garin.
Guns.
Guns.
Yes. This next American passed while I was actually serving in the F-16 weapons school. Cajun DeBogno. He was actually in the Thunderbirds, and they were out practicing, and unfortunately had a G-induced loss of consciousness happen where he ultimately impacted the ground. I had the privilege to meet him a few times. I didn't know him too well personally, but phenomenal American. Leaving behind his family, and it's just unfortunate. So here's to Cajun.
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 I already heard you toast to Scooter Hamilton, who was a great American that I had the privilege of serving with in Kunsan in the GVETs, and then back when I was at the F-16 weapons school, and he was in the aggressors, and then in Draken, worked with him quite a lot. So I know you already toasted him, but just wanted to say that he was just Scooter.
Yeah, it's a Scooter. Once again.
The last.
Uh-oh.
Oops, I'm back.
Okay.
The last one that I'd like to talk to you this evening was this past December. Actually, here in Madison, Wisconsin, which was Hawk Jones. Unfortunately, he was a phenomenal American. Great guy, well respected within the squadron, highly intelligent, always helpful. He was a great husband. He was a father of 2 young boys, and unfortunately, on December 8th, he passed here up in the upper peninsula here in the Midwest. So, I was working that night, and it sets a little bit close to home. Especially when you're there for when the event actually takes place. A lot of these people that I talk to are my friends, but it's easier to compartmentalize when you're not actually there in the squadron when it happens, at least in my opinion. But I was there at the OPSES when we received the call that we had lost a jet. And he leaves behind a wife, Corrine, who's a very strong woman, and his 2 boys. The details of the crash are not yet public, so I'm not going to speak to that. But I would just like to take the opportunity and toast to Hawk. So here's to Hawk.
Hawk. Wow.
All right, thanks, Mover.
Yeah, man, dude, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's unfortunate. You've had a long career, and that's quite a few that we haven't toasted yet. Messerschmitt, I didn't know him personally. I've spoken to his father. I know that Messer was a watcher of the channel, which I was very honored. He lost his life. We did the AIB on that in the F-16, and just a very tragic mishap out at Shaw, where he attempted to eject. So here's to Messer.
Messer.
I know Wombat, if he ever would have gotten off of his airline gig, probably would have toasted somebody I've done a tribute to before. I knew him advance. In fact, Deuce, I think you met him as well. Taj Serene, cabbie, out. He was in a Hornet and had spatial disorientation off the tanker. They were doing a tanker departure and impacted the ground, losing his life, leaving behind a family. Great guy. Everybody loved him. Just all around great American. So here is to Cabby.
Cabby.
Here.
Does anyone else have, the floor is open if you've got any more tributes, or if you just, Deuce.
Yeah, sorry, Mover, if I missed it. This one was while you and I were both at the B course, and neither of us knew him personally. But here's to Trojan Gilbert.
Oh yeah, Trojan.
who passed trying to save some Americans on the ground in Iraq who were under fire, and he was doing a strafing run. And so here's to Trojan, Gilbert. Here.
Here's to Trojan.
Trojan.
Casmo, you got any Army? I know you're the minority here with the rotary wing, but any more?
Just the poor old helicopter guy. Yeah, I've got one more. Matt Mattingly. Captain Matt Mattingly. He was actually the commander of this unit here behind me, which I had the distinct honor of commanding a few years later. But same deployment as I mentioned before, 2006, September 13th, 2006. He was killed in action. They flew checking out the suspected enemy location, and yeah, just a ton of fire. And unfortunately, he was killed that day. So to Matt.
In the chat, let me know if you guys have somebody to toast. I actually have the ability to drag the chat to here. This is something I'm going to try, but yeah. And the thing about Memorial Day, I mean, we honor their legacy, and we try to look forward to preserving what they've given us, the sacrifice they have, by continuing to honor them and continuing to remember them, not to forget about them. But Matt McKee says Matt Hayden. So let's see. We can do that. Matt Hayden. Look at that. That's fancy.
There's one up from Jack Estes. It says, my donation in honor of shipmate and friend, Navy Lieutenant Tom Costin, lost 18 January 91 when his A6E was shot down in Iraq.
All right. To Tom. Oh, here we go.
Oh.
To Tom. Here's one. Lieutenant Colonel Van Bastelar, A-10 driver in the 103rd Fighter Squadron, 111th Fighter Wing, PA Air National Guard, Willow Grove. Very well regarded pilot. Lost aircraft on landing. Great loss for the wing. To Colonel Van Bastelar. I'm not going to show all these because now we got a bunch. Staff Sergeant Stevens killed 1980 in a training accident at Yakima.
Yeah,
SO1 Patrick D. Freaks. Oh, Shugart and Gordon. Yeah, that was a big one. Shugart and Gordon, who gave their lives in Mogadishu during the famous Black Hawk Down incident. Do you guys talk about that, Casmo? Was that something that you did any studies on in your training?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. You're certainly conscious of it. It always comes up when you work with soft guys and trying to find the balance between doing something, we say on the X, meaning, the Blackhawks wanting to put guys on the actual building versus a lot of times the safety margin as well. We want to be offset so they have to move via ground, 300 meters or whatever it is. And a lot of times that whole situation gets quoted as, well, we can't do it to the X because Black Hawk Down situation. I've literally heard that in briefings and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's, that very intense situation, and you got a very intense group of people. Those were Delta operators. You got 160th guys flying around. So those guys are definitely used to going to the X. But, that whole situation, those guys, they knew what they were getting into. And that's what's incredible about those two in particular, is that they knew. I mean, that aircraft was isolated from everyone else. They were a tripwire, and they knew what they were going into. So just, yeah, hats off to those guys forever. There's a training down at Fort Polk in Louisiana, the big urban training complex. They named that Shugart and Gordon Training Complex in their memory. So there's a lot of soldiers that have gone through training, and it's dedicated to them. So
awesome. Thanks, Casmo. That's good stuff. Wow. Yeah, a lot of good memorials. I've put them up on the screen, which is a new feature that I have. So we haven't set it, it is up on the screen, and we will do a toast to them as well. So anyway, Gonky, got anything?
Well, yeah, good buddy. Dan Sadowski is a senior chief. So he was a tech on on a Hornet, Super Hornet. He always used to tell me, ask me when I was going to graduate to the Super Hornet because I flew regular Hornet for a while. But he died 10 years ago again as a result of a brain aneurysm. He left behind, his wife, and he was actually raising his granddaughters and stuff.
Wow.
So he was a fantastic. His neighbor came over and said, "Man, that's number one grandpa over there." So very sudden, tragic loss. Goes to Dan.
Dan.
And of course, the list is not all inclusive. I've made videos in the past. We've talked about a lot of those that have paid the ultimate price for our freedom. But in general, if you have somebody, just think about them today. Think about what it means to you. Think about what this day means, and remember them and move forward. But I appreciate all of you for being here, for being on the channel. Look at this. We're all four. Awesome. If you guys got any funny stories you want to tell before we go, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but we can make this a little less serious before we end this. You guys have it. Anything?
Anybody? Yeah, I'll tell another funny Franks. I mean, I like to mess with them. So when I was his commander, he was one of my instructor pilots, and when he was deployed, he just wanted to fly all the time. Like it was just, he didn't want to be off the schedule, because in his mind it was like, well, if I have to be here away from my family, I might as well be out doing stuff. And I'm sure, like you guys, we've got so many hours you can fly a month before the doctors get involved, right? And so just based on the schedule, he was getting a lot of hours, and so I'd have to sit him, and I would do this on purpose. I would sit him for like 3 days straight, and he would just be so miserable and just come complain to me. And I'm like, "What, Frank? I'm just trying to take care of you, And we would just picture him sitting in his room, just staring at the wall, waiting to go back to war, because that's where he wanted to be. But just kind of goof off with him. But he made really good friends with the Australian special forces that were there at our base, and like we're talking about, like the Heart of Gold, like, so the Australians have a harder time getting stuff sent to them in Australia. Like they can't, they don't have Amazon Prime the same way we do, right? So getting stuff is a little bit more challenging. And so he basically gave them access to his Amazon, and they would be ordering stuff in Afghanistan and deliver it to him, and then they would just pay him, just pay him off for it. And so we'd be sitting here, we're in the middle of Afghanistan, and we would suddenly get this, I remember one day a scuba tank showed up, and we're like, what the hell is this for? And they're like, oh, it's for the Aussies and stuff. But that was a really good relationship that he cultivated, because they had a barbecue night every Sunday, and we were invited, so we'd always go over there and get lots of great food. But yeah, Frank was one of those dudes. He could make friends anywhere, and yeah, I miss him. He's a good dude.
Awesome. Once again to Frank, because what a guy.
Yeah, he was.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I want to wrap this up. I really appreciate all of you telling your stories, remembering the fallen. Those of you still watching, check out Folds of Honor. It is a good way to honor their legacy. In fact, Folds of Honor, Deuce, they reached out for Hawk, right? That was something that came of that.
It's true salmon mover. They were very helpful.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things. They try to make it just a little bit easier when we lose the fallen. People always ask, they go, well, why does a country like that need a charity like Folds of Honor? And it's not because we need it. It's because the goodness of people, to Dan Rooney to set up the charity, the goodness of people that donate to try to help just alleviate the burden just a little bit beyond what the government can do. So just an awesome charity, an awesome event. Gentlemen, any other parting shots before we call it a night? Awesome.
Thanks, Mover. It's been a privilege.
Yeah, thanks, Deuce. We appreciate it. Casmo, you rock. Thanks for your stories. And Gonky, Beautiful as always, man. Beautiful as always. Thank you for your service. So, good night, everybody.
See you guys. Good night.